So thank you very much for coming today. My name is Kakuchi and I'll be a moderator. On the table we have international witnesses who have visited Fukushima and talked to radiation survivors there. And they will tell you their story, or their own anti-nuclear activist story in their own countries, as well as what they have learned from Fukushima. They will take those stories back. This tour is organized by Greenpeace, Japan. And on my right is Ms. Takada, who will talk to us about why they did this and what the impact of this tour is. Next to her is Mr. François Juliard, who is from France. And next to him is Mr. Sundarrajan, who is from South India and an activist there. And next to him is Professor Yoon from South Korea. They will talk to us about what they have observed and perhaps compare it with their anti-nuclear activism in their countries. Since we don't have much time, I will ask Ms. Takada to explain to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm Hisayo Takada from Greenpeace Japan. So soon from now, 3 years on, from Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant started. It is so clear that it's already 3 years going to pass, but the disaster is far from settled down. Then the people affected by this disaster, it's still left in life in limbo. We visited as Greenpeace many times to Fukushima region and then talked to victims. What they keep saying to us, don't forget. They are afraid to be forgotten. It is yet to be 3 years, but still they already feeling forgotten. This is why, before these 3 years, that as Greenpeace, International Environmental NGO, we brought witnesses around the world who is fighting against nuclear power plant project on their own land to Fukushima to meet the Fukushima victims face to face, to visit and listen to them directly so that they bring back the messages to their own countries. Therefore, we brought 6 witnesses around the world, and then all of them agreed to deliver the message of the Fukushima to their own countries. We brought those 6 witnesses. Don't let them forget. Don't let Fukushima people forget. And don't let the same disaster, nuclear power plant disaster, ever happen again anywhere in this planet. Now, I'd like to introduce the witnesses who joined this witness tour with us. Just a repeat, but from my next is Jean-François Juliard from Greenpeace France, and he is Executive Director at Greenpeace in France. Then also Sundarrajan Gomathinayagam, he is an activist against the Kudankulam nuclear power plant in India. And also Professor Yoon Ho Seob from Korea. He's a long-time anti-nuclear activist as well as a green designer as well. Then in this same room, we have other people as well. I just want to give you the name. So from Germany, we have Mr. Martin Donat. He is the regional councillor in the Goa-Leven area. Martin can stand up? Thank you. And also from Germany, we have from Greenpeace Germany, Heinz Smittal, also in this room. From France, we have Yannick Lucet, also from Greenpeace France. From India, we have another witness, Satyajit Chavan. He is also working against the Jaitapur nuclear power plant project in India. From India, we have from Greenpeace, Josefa, yes, Greenpeace India nuclear campaigner. Then we have from guest from Poland, Andrzej Slawiński. He is living in 2 kilometers away from the nuclear power plant possible site in Poland. From Poland, Greenpeace, we have EVO as well, working against nuclear power plant. Then from Korea, we have Dao-chan from Greenpeace Korea as well. So these are the people who joined the witness tour, and I like to now, to begin with, I like to share with you some of the victims' testimony that made a deep impression to those witnesses around the world by showing this video with you. Thank you.
親としてなんかこうなんでしょう、やらなくちゃいけない親としての立場として今まで守ってきて声を上げてきてましたけど、子供は子供の生活があるわけで3年間やっぱり足踏みしてしまったのをすごく感じてるんですよね。やはり声を上げることも大事だし、でも守らなくちゃいけないことも大事だけど、子供にとっては本当は普通の生活、普通のみんなと同じ生活、みんなと同じ勉強の普通が本当に心の安定を誘うわけで、3年間本当に子どもたちに申し訳ない思いもある中で苦しめてきてるんだなって。だからその原発がすごく憎くなったりとかするし、こうして皆さんとお話しする機会とか私が話す時間とか今日ここに来る時も、なんで私ただのおばさんなのにこういう時間を費やさなくちゃいけないんだろうって、本当だったら子どものための時間をもっともっともっと作ってあげたい。でもこういう場できちんと自分の声を発していかなかったら日本は本当になかったことにされてしまうし、それがもっともっと悔しいこと。
今度の事故の原因は直接は津波ですけども、本当の原因は経営者の事故防止をする義務を怠ってたからです。
While the primary cause of the incident this time was a tsunami, in fact, the real underlying cause of it was that the managers had fallen asleep at the wheel, had evaded their responsibility.
今、日本の規制庁は自然災害だけを原発事故の原因として議論をしております。
Right at the moment in Japan, the regulatory authority in Japan only debates in terms of natural disasters being the main threat behind nuclear power plants and accidents.
恐ろしいことに彼らには現場の経験をしている者がおりません。
And unbelievably and terrifyingly, among the regulatory authority and the managers, none of them have really experience on the front line themselves.
今度の事故の原因は現場を知らない者たちが舵を切ってたから起きたんです。
And the real cause of the accident this time was that the people in charge don't have any experience really on the front line where it counts.
そのことを反省もせずに原発をまた動かそうとしております。
And without reflecting upon this at all or thinking about why this was wrong, they are now trying to restart nuclear reactors in Japan.
ぜひにですね、そういう占領の隠蔽とか健康に対する隠蔽とかそういうものが今日本の中ではどんどん行われています。だからそういうことを今日本の国内で声を上げようとしてもなかなか 届かないんですね。マスメディアも同じですし、発表しないと、そういうことになってます。だから今度は逆に海外から日本を攻め込むようなそういう手法を取っていただければなと、そういう思いがします。
親としてなんかこう。
So these are some examples that witnesses from the other countries learned through this tour. Then also, I like to add that one more our colleagues, Jan van der Putte from Greenpeace Belgium, with us today. He has extensive experience in radiation monitoring with us in Fukushima region. So I just wanted to introduce him as well. And with that, that's...
Would you like to speak?
Oh, sure. Do you want... Should I just...
No, just...
Okay. Then first, Jean-François from Greenpeace France gives you some opinion from him. Thank you.
Hello. Yes, quickly. My first surprise when arriving in Fukushima was the fact that people in Fukushima are telling the same stories, are having the same words as people in France or in Europe, other European countries, because they are saying that before the disaster they thought nuclear energy was safe, 100% safe. They didn't believe such an accident could happen. And this is exactly what people are saying right now in Europe, in France or in other European countries. They say that they believe in the nuclear industry. They say that they cannot imagine that such an accident could happen. I just remember the regular, usual statement in France, which is, we don't have any tsunami in France, so we cannot face such an accident, which is a nonsense, because there are so many reasons to have a nuclear accident. And then, talking to the people in Fukushima, I realized that the disaster is still going on. Of course, we all know that the disaster is still going on, but when you are just in meeting face-to-face these people, you realize how important it is, of course. And see, this is not just a natural disaster. You cannot, in such a situation, you cannot just build new houses, build new roads, build new infrastructures and say, okay, now we have turned to another page and we start from zero and forget about this accident. It cannot happen. These people in Fukushima will have to live with the consequences of this accident for decades, even no more. So this is why I'm going to say to the people when I am back to France, to say that we cannot compare, we cannot assess how important it is for the people in Fukushima to keep their stories alive and to keep talking about the situation in Fukushima. You know how difficult it is sometimes to keep stories alive, and this is why I am here to bring these stories back to my country and ensure that people are not forgetting about Fukushima. Then another lesson I got from this tour is the fact that we are not ready to face such an accident in France and in other European countries as well. Of course, in France we have emergency plans, we have evacuation zones. French government and French nuclear authorities are telling us everything is ready. We are as well prepared as we can. But you can never be prepared to such an accident. When you see the situation right now in Fukushima 3 years later, 3 years after the accident, you just realize that you can never be prepared to such an accident, and you can set up any plan, any emergency plan you want. It will never be enough to be prepared to such an accident. And it is the same as well in Europe. People don't know a lot about nuclear energy, don't know a lot about what should they do if such an accident is happening in Europe. And people are not ready. I'm pretty sure people are not ready to have a a large zone like it is in Fukushima area to be evacuated. So they have to keep it in mind. So, and this is my last word, I would like to say that Japan should not export nuke material, should not try to export nuclear material now to other countries. Japan should not relaunch new reactors. It has to be a nuclear-free country forever. And this is a responsibility, of course, to the Japanese people, but not only. This is a responsibility for the whole world. I mean, a nuclear accident is not only the matter of a population in a country, it's a responsibility for the planet, for the Earth, for the whole world. So this is what I'm going to say. And I just want to tell to TEPCO and to the Japanese government that, at least in France, I will ensure that people will never forget about Fukushima. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And the next speaker.
Good evening, everybody. The people of Edinagarai, a small village in the southernmost part of India, have been putting up a spirited fight against the Kudankulam nuclear power plant for more than 2 years. We owe this spirit to Fukushima. Our people have learned the dangers about nuclear power after the catastrophic accident that happened in Fukushima. We woke up and are standing up against the dangers because of Fukushima. Now, we visited about 5 survivors of Fukushima accident, and we just wanted to know what is the kind of pain that they've gone through in the last 3 years. And we are sure that all is not well in Fukushima. We want the entire world to know that not all is well in Fukushima. We met Sugana-san, whom you saw in the documentary just now. She said, why should she raise her voice against the power plants, whereas she has got better things to do in taking care of her children, making them to study, taking care of their health and everything. Why should she do that? Why should she raise her voice against the power plants? But if she does not do it, Japan may restart the reactors, and world over there will be more reactors in future, which will make more mothers like her to suffer, right, what she is undergoing. So she has requested us to take her voice to all the mothers across the globe, across various countries, and she believes that the voice of the mother has the power to change things in future. And we assure you that we will take her message, and the message that the governments across the world deceive people when it comes to nuclear energy repeatedly. The people of India and people of Japan have got a very long and cherished tradition culture. We have a message for the people of Japan. The people of India love the people of Japan, but not your dirty reactors. The people of India would love to welcome with open hands your Prime Minister Abe-san whenever he visits India. But there is nobody to take your destructive technology. My humble request to Japanese and to Japanese government is, please don't dump this destructive technology on people who love you and who love your country. We have got all rights to live in a peaceful environment, in a nuclear-free environment. The Japanese people have now understood what Fukushima did for them and to the entire world. Now we should stand up and fight against that. This does not get repeated in the near future anywhere in the world. This is the message that we would like to tell you and to carry to our country. Thank you.
Next speaker, Professor Yoon.
안녕하세요. 서울에서 온 윤호섭입니다.
Hello, everybody. I'm Professor Yoon from Seoul, South Korea.
후쿠시마 사고는 지금 진행 중인 지구적 재앙입니다.
The Fukushima accident is a clearly ongoing global disaster.
용납될 수 없는 우리 세대의 큰 실수입니다.
An unacceptable mistake in our era.
후쿠시마에 살고 있는 분들도 건강하고 행복하게 살 수 있는 인간의 가장 기본적인 권리를 박탈당했습니다.
The rights of Fukushima people to live healthy and happy lives have been deliberatively violated.
원자력 발전소를 묵인한 책임 있는 세대로서 피해를 받은 사람들에게 부끄럽고 무거운 책임을 느낍니다.
As one of the old generations responsible for overlooking the expansion of nuclear power generation, I feel deeply sorry to those affected.
3년 전 후쿠시마 핵발전소 사고 소식을 듣고 이것이 일반 재난과 다르고 내가 무시할 수 없는 것이고 우리의 삶이 무엇인가 크게 잘못됐다는 느낌을 강렬하게 받았습니다.
Right after the March 11, 2011, I strongly felt that the Fukushima disaster is different from other disasters, and something is very wrong up to the level that I can't ignore.
곧바로 가족회의 열고 나부터 우리 가족부터 에너지를 최대한 줄이기로 결정하고 바로 실천에 옮겼습니다.
Then immediately I had a discussion with my family to decrease our energy consumption as much as possible and has been practicing since then.
그리고 쓰리 아일랜드, 체르노빌, 후쿠시마의 교훈이 다른 나라 먼 곳의 일이 아니고 우리 나의 일이고 내 이웃의 일이고 일이고 한국에서도 핵발전소가 문제가 생길지 모른다고 우리 학생들, 내 제자들, 내 이웃 사람들한테 이야기를 했습니다.
Also, I have been trying to deliver the lessons we learned from the 3 Mile, Chernobyl, and Fukushima accidents to my students and general public in Korea through designs and artworks.
이번 투어를 통해서 현재까지 피해자들이 겪은 고통과 어려움을 직접 보고 듣고 어떤 정부나 기업도 원전 사고를 막을 수 없고 수습할 수 없다는 느낌을 받았습니다.
The current situation of the victims as well as what they have gone through so far gives to me a clear impression that no company or no government can control a nuclear accident and protect people.
후쿠시마에서 제가 만난 분들은 제 친구들과 제 가족과 제 아는 사람들과 다를 거 없는 이 행성 위의 경이로운 존재들입니다.
The people I witnesses in Fukushima seem nothing different from my friends and family in my country.
언제 일어날지 모르는 원전 사고가 한국에서 많이 일어난다면은 내 가족과 친구들, 제자들이 어떻게 될지, 또 일본까지 어떻게 영향을 미칠지, 전 세계에 어떤 고통과 어려움을 줄지 생각하게 됐습니다.
Therefore, I was able to imagine what could happen in my country if the same tragic accident happens in South Korea.
그러나 안타깝게도 우리는 후쿠시마의 분명한 교훈을 바로 듣고 보고 느끼면서 그 책임을 회피하고 무시하고 있습니다.
But very unfortunately, we hasn't learned any lessons from the Fukushima, and we have been irresponsible for those affected.
한국은 현재 23개의 원전이 있고 앞으로 39개로 늘리려고 하고 있습니다.
Still, the South Korean government is planning to further increase number of nuclear reactors from current 23 to 39, although the nuclear density is already highest in the world.
한반도 남쪽의 인구 밀집 지역에 수백만 명이 살고 있는데 원자력 발전소가 바로 거기에 있습니다.
And also, we have millions of people nearby nuclear power plants in Korea.
만약 사고가 나면은 인류 역사상 가장 큰 문제가 생길 겁니다.
If a nuclear accident happens in South Korea, the scale of the accident will be the worst ever in history.
한국이 탈핵을 하지 않으면은 언젠가는 사고가 나지 않겠습니까? 한국에서 부는 바람이 일본으로 날아가고 태평양으로 날아가고 전 세계적으로 퍼질 텐데 우리는 미래 세대를 위해서 이렇게 위험한 일을 멈춰야 되고 모든 지혜를 합쳐서 같이 움직여야 되겠습니다.
If a nuclear accident happens in South Korea, Japan won't be able to free from the risk of the accident because most of the nuclear power plants in Korea are located at the eastern coast, not far from Japan, and the wind generally blows from South Korea to Japan, and also the impact will be global. Therefore, we have to work together to stop this addiction to the declining and dangerous business of nuclear industry, especially for our children and future generations.
제가 만든 포스터의 카피 하나를 소개시켜 드리겠습니다.
This is the poster I designed, and I would like to share with the copy or the saying of my poster with you today.
아직 태어나지 않은 우리 다음 세대가 다음과 같은 질문을 한다면 어떻게 답하겠습니까?
What if our next unborn generation could ask a question like this?
그때 원전밖에 다른 대안이 없었나요?
Was the nuclear power really your only choice?
우리가 노력한다면은 이미 안전하고 깨끗한 대안이 있지 않습니까?
If we put our knowledge together, we already have a cleaner and better options.
저는 한국에 돌아가면은 저의 재능, 아트와 디자인으로서 원전의 무모함을 지적하고 제가 만난 피해자들에게 조금이라도 기쁨을 줄 수 있는 그 무엇인가 제 작업을 하겠습니다.
Once I go back to South Korea, during the rest of my life, I'll be a messenger to deliver what I witnessed here in Fukushima. And through my talent in design and art, I would like to do something to support the victims for Fukushima.
고맙습니다.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We have the floor open for questions. You can come up to the microphone there and identify yourself. Yes, Pio.
Pio D'Emilia from Italy Sky TG24 television. I have two questions, one for Greenpeace and one for the French representative, since I am Italian, so it's close. The first one to Greenpeace is a fact. I mean, have Greenpeace officially requested to Toden to enter the nuclear plant? If yes, how many times? How did you do that? Were you allowed? Were you not allowed? I mean, can you tell us a little bit if there were some negotiation and how they ended up? And to the French representative, I think that in Asia, the trend is still very pro-nuclear, while for various reasons, but in Europe it's rather fading out, except France. So I don't want to make you the scapegoat, but how could you imagine in the future some rebuild of the anti-nuclear forces in Europe, since you and the British are the only ones that are still pursuing this ugly and dirty technology? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. So I understand, if I understand you correctly, that your answer to Greenpeace is ever Greenpeace officially asked to TEPCO to enter our entrance to Fukushima Daiichi. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. The question is no. We have never asked to the entrance to Fukushima Daiichi site as Greenpeace, because we think our duty is our priority is the people's health, and then the environment, the impact to the environment. While this massive disaster is happening, especially in the early stage, we put our priority to make sure that the people's effects to the people from this disaster kept as minimum as possible. Therefore, we did a survey in very early stage at the 2 weeks after the disaster starting, went to Fukushima area to witness what happened, and then we also, for example, we went to Itate village as well. One of the earliest people went to the village to identify the risk to the population. Then also we made official recommendations as public press conference like this one, that the people living there should be evacuated, especially the children and pregnant women. That was our priority. Yes.
Yes, about the situation in France, yes. You are right, this is a very specific situation, but I think it's because for more than 50 years now, people just had access to lies from the different governments in France about the nuclear industry. I don't want to make the full history of nuclear industry in France, but starting from the General de Gaulle in the 50s, people had in mind that nuclear energy was something very good for the French situation, and still today people think nuclear energy is good because it's cheap, because it's the independence of the country as well. And just to let you know, EDF, which is the main nuclear operator in France, is still spending millions of euros to keep a good image, to keep a good reputation, buying advertisements in the mainstream medias in France, etc. So there is a huge propaganda around the nuclear industry in France for more than 50 years. So I think this is the main reason. I hope so, because if not, it means that we have a specific mind about nuclear in France, I hope. But you are right in the sense that if we manage to change the situation in France, it will have an impact all over Europe and maybe all over the world. So we have to increase this anti-nuclear movement in France, not only in France, but we have to do it in France as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else from the journalists? Okay, maybe I would ask Professor Yoon. There is reports that the ocean near Fukushima is contaminated with the contamination water flow. What is the reaction in Korea?
Yes, we heard. 한국 사람들이 일본 사람들보다 더 예민하게 받아들이고 있는 것 같습니다.
Yes, Korean people worried a lot about the contamination in the ocean from the Fukushima accident.
그런데 이제 신문 미디어를 통해서 들어오는 인포메이션은 일본 정부에서 정확한 정보를 주지 않고 항상 뭐가 잘못됐다 계속 그게 반복되어 오니까 이제 뭐 좀 마비된 그런 상황.
But the informations we can get in South Korea is from are the informations from the government, and since the information doesn't seem to be correct all the time, and also there have been so many leaks from the Fukushima accident since it happens, so we have been quite confused about the situation.
그래서 그 후쿠시마 앞바다 해양 그 오염 수치에 대한 거는 일본 정부뿐만 아니고 유엔이나 무슨 안보리나 뭐 이런 데서 정말 우리가 믿을 수 있는 데이터가 전 세계에 공표가 됐으면 좋겠어요.
And the situation near the ocean situation near the Fukushima power plant should be transparently shared by an independent organization like the UN to the people in the world.
Yes.
Patrick Solnoy, Zürcher Zeitung from Switzerland. My question is to the lady from Greenpeace. Greenpeace is not just fighting against nuclear power plants, you're also fighting to reduce CO2 emissions. And if you look at Japan, there's basically, in the short term, the choice between two evils, increase CO2 or turn back on the nuclear power plants. What's your position on this?
Thank you. Yes, the Fukushima disaster showing us that once disaster like this happened, it affects many areas. Same thing applies to climate change. So by stopping all nuclear power plants doesn't mean that we forget about climate change threat to Japanese people and then to the people in other countries. Yes, the currently all 50, or you can say 54 or 50 or 48 reactors stopped officially in Japan. Therefore, no reactors is operating at the moment to generate electricity. But life goes on, as you can witness at the moment. But this doesn't mean that we forget about CO2 increase. Yes, currently the CO2 emission due to the increased usage of the thermal power plant, for example, from coal or the gas, that's contributing to the increase of CO2 emission from Japan. But I think that's the very reason that we should not go back to the fossil fuel or nuclear debate. Whether for which should we choose, the nuclear or fossil, that this discussion and debate of such choices is already over. That because we have clearly another option, renewable energy efficiency, it is proven in many other countries, well, including Japan, that we can substitute the nuclear power plant generated electricity with those two technologies, energy efficiency and renewable energy. We don't have time to talk about whether we take nuclear or the fossil fuel. We can just, for the Japanese case, no nuclear, and then just go directly to energy efficiency, renewable energy. That's the only way that we can take to avoid any catastrophic climate change, also second nuclear disaster happen in Japan. And then our report, Energy Revolution, which is published 2011 September, that's supporting this argument that without any power plant operating in, nuclear power plant operating in Japan as of 2012, that we can meet the 25% reduction of CO2 by 2020, as well as supporting the country's economy going. So I think it is not the case of the question, can we do that? It is a fact that we can do that. All we need is a political will to go to that direction from the government. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
I'm an associate member. Follow-up question to what you just said. What is the present percentage of renewable energy produced in Japan, and how much do you see that to go until 2030?
Thank you. The current, I don't have exact figure with me at the moment, but the currently Japanese electricity comes from renewable energy. It's about 12%, 12 to 13%, I understand. That including large hydro, the one needs the water dam. In our energy revolution scenario, that's if we take the most way, which is stop using all nuclear power plant, then also dynamic switch to renewable energy plus energy efficiency. We can we can meet or match that current before the disaster what the nuclear power plant generated, which means about 30% of the electricity of Japan. Then if we start earlier, we can go further. We can meet this target earlier. Then also, even in our middle scenario, which is the government said in last year, two years ago, about phasing out power plant in 2030s. We have that scenario as well, and in that scenario also. See that the massive increase of renewable energy is possible. Thank you.
Yes.
Dan Slater, Delphi Network. I'd like to ask you, what is your assessment of what is going on right now inside the cores of the nuclear reactors? And also, because we have an international dimension here, how does it compare to other nuclear accidents that you've seen, 3 Mile Island and Chernobyl?
So your question was the situation. How do we think?
Yes, correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank
There
you.
was a lot of miscommunication or misinformation at the beginning of the accident. It took several weeks before the government even admitted that there was a meltdown. So I was hoping if you, in layman's terms, in simple terms, you could give us your analysis of what the situation of the nuclear core is now within the affected plant.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. If it's about nuclear core, fuel core, which the answer is we don't know, because nobody knows. We cannot go into, anybody can go into that to look at what it looked like. So that's the magnitude of this disaster. It is a triple meltdown. That any people never experienced this kind of nuclear disaster, and then it is still going on. Like recently, the TEPCO admitted another contaminated water leaking from one of the tanks. 100 tons of highly radioactive water leaked out. This is just another additional to the long list of the TEPCO and Japanese government, together with the Nuclear Regulation Authority of Japan, it's committed the mistakes and then wrongdoings. The result is always same, that it's reported late and then it's almost hidden, then the situation is unclear. Therefore, the people go into ever confusing what is really happening, what is the truth. So it is clearly showing the failure of the nuclear industry system, which is nothing new to us, but it's another example of the TEPCO and then the Japanese government, NRA, is incompetent to handling of this disaster. Then especially the government of Japan and NRC should not hide behind the TEPCO, but all of those three has responsibility to dealing with the disaster as soon as possible. Thank you.
And international?
International.
Yes. Compared to...
Yeah, I don't know to compare with other accidents. Honestly, I cannot. I don't know if someone can, because I don't know enough other situation, but maybe someone in the delegation can do it. I don't know if Jan or Heinze, you want to do something? You want to tell something?
Yes, as I introduced, there is another delegation who has some mind. Jan, can you?
Yeah, he can go to the microphone.
Come up to them. Thank you.
Yes, Jan van der Putten from Belgium. So already on the 14th of March 2011, Greenpeace stated that we were expecting a meltdown in the reactors following the failing cooling, and this assessment was not so difficult to make because it's basic nuclear handbook knowledge. Yeah? And so the fact that the government has been so late in recognizing the meltdowns is part of the misinformation strategy that we have seen unfolding over the last years. So that's one point. Comparing the meltdowns in Fukushima, the triple meltdown, with 3 Mile Island or Chernobyl, is, I think we should be very careful to make any real comparison, because nobody has, as my colleague Hisayo Takada has said, we have very little information of the actual situation of the fuel in the reactors, exactly where it is, in what state it is, and in what location it is. So I would refrain to make any really serious comparison between the different reactors. Thank you.
I think we can take one last question. Okay.
Right after the incident, Greenpeace was very active. I guess it was among the first to check on the food chain and the food safety and so forth. I wonder if you have some thing to tell us after 3 years. You know, this is one of the biggest concerns, especially for mothers, especially for, people that have kids or they are pregnant, there is still very strong this collateral effect, which is the worry that people have when they buy items, not only there, because we know that now you can take everything everywhere. So not only there, but let's reduce it to Japan. So is there any concrete risk in consuming vegetables, meat, fish? I mean, this is a great concern, not only for us journalists, but for the people themselves.
Thank you. So the risk having or eating those vegetables or the fish, of course there is no threshold in terms of the radiation risk to the human body. So less is better. Where you can avoid, that you should avoid. And the bigger problem is that for example, Greenpeace, as you mentioned, many times we did the food screening test. For example, we bought fish or seafood product from supermarket all over Japan, Hokkaido, Kyushu, and then we tested at our lab and then our collaborative lab about the cesium level of that. And then what we found, we didn't find anything exceeding of the government level, which is 100 becquerel per kilogram. However, what we found there is the wide spreading of the contaminated food in Japan. One of our sample from Hokkaido fish, which was cod, was detected. It was contaminated, and it was sold in the supermarket. And also another sample from Kyushu, we found a similar result. So while the disaster is Fukushima area, but through the market, the distribution, or maybe the labeling problem, or maybe the screening error, this is happening. That is the truth we know. So as Greenpeace, the information disclosure, the quality of information from the government authority is really needed. The continuous monitoring of the contamination level in the food should be continued and then should be kept stronger for the future as well. Thank you.
Yeah, fine.
Hello, Joël Lejean from RTL France. Bonjour, Monsieur Juliard. I have a question about issues related to the people who live now in the zones, which is close to Fukushima. There are some political statements that people can come back one time, and I'd like to hear your view on that. And I heard that there is a book from one of our correspondents here, Mr. Pagnota, who is called The Man. It's about Naoto Matsumura, the man of Fukushima, and he's going to come to France, actually in Switzerland, to present his book, because he seems to say that it's a reaction against nuclear industry and so on like that. It's not a story about pro-nuclear, like we say, we can live here, it's all right. So, and I think it hasn't been very well understood by the environmentalists in France about this issue. There was some division between you movements, Greenpeace and others. But my question is, future of the people. How can they survive? What do you see in 10 years ahead from now? Thank you.
Thank you. The people in Fukushima, that's our most concern at the moment. That what we witness through our work, not only this tour, is that people keep living left in limbo. It's people, they are the victim. They did nothing wrong when it comes to nuclear disaster, but they keep suffering still 3 years since the beginning of the disaster. Our witnesses keep saying that they feel angry about the government because they lost everything. The generated land, the long time, the family living together, 4 generations living together, 8 family members. Then suddenly, now they are spreading all over the place. Some victims said that then they are put in a very difficult position. She wants to keep evacuated to protect family or children, but when the the nuclear evacuation order lifted, then also the compensation to her family also cut. So financially, they may be forced to go back to the contaminated area. So what is needed to happen is that victims who decide not to return, or people decided to return to the area, both of the victims should be fully supported by the government or the people who has responsible of this disaster. Currently, this is not happening at all. Therefore, the victims, there's many of the victims still left in limbo, which is a huge problem.
Okay, I think we've come to the end of our time. I'd like to thank the speakers, and I think you are available for a few minutes. You can talk to them personally as well. And thank you very much for coming.